Hey there, everybody. How's everybody doing this evening? Hopefully, you guys can all hear me okay. Should be coming through loud and clear. I'd appreciate some of the guys in the chat if they could let me know if you guys can hear everything okay. All right. So, this evening, we are going to be covering a few things. I kind of wanted to start out by talking about ice machines. And then we're going to kind of go from there, and then I'll answer some questions from everybody and see what we can do. Let me go ahead and clear my screen here so I'm not staring at myself. Open up the chat so I can read that nice and good. Hello to everybody that's in the chat. You guys have all said hi, and I know I haven't responded to everybody quite yet. Right on. Cool. I'm glad. Trying to get past this stuff. I'm getting better and better at this stuff. One of these days I'll be okay at it, at this streaming thing. There's a lot of guys that can do it a lot better than I, but I want to clear something up real quick. In the chat a few minutes ago, they were talking about air conditioning and refrigeration book. You guys were mentioning the commercial refrigeration for air conditioning technicians. That's this book right here. Very, very good book. For those that are just coming in here, this was just, they were talking about this book in the chat, so that's why I'm bringing it up. This is a great book by Mr. Dick Wers. He's a great professor. This is the 3rd edition. This is the newest one that they have right now. They will be coming out with a new one. I've heard he's working on it, but it's going to be some time before he's finished up. This is a great book for or people that want to get, apologize for that, people that want to get into refrigeration. It's basically, it doesn't start from scratch, okay? It kind of covers, it assumes that you already know a little bit about air conditioning, and then it just kind of goes into there. It still does cover some basics, but it's meant to be for air conditioning technicians that want to transition over to refrigeration. So definitely a good read if you guys want to consider that book. I highly recommend it. That is a great book. So very, very good thing. I know some of you guys, they were talking about it too in the chat, are getting ready for a big cold snap coming through, and hopefully you guys do okay with that. I was joking around in the chat saying that we've got a cold snap coming too, and it's going to get into the 50s. So us here in California, we don't know what cold is. So I wish you guys the best with that one. I know it's going to be getting cold. Hey there, Tersh. How you doing, man? Yeah, so I know you guys are going to have to deal with that, so bear with it, and hopefully it passes soon, and you guys don't freeze to death. So just keep that in mind. When you guys have a nice mild summer, we're going to be hitting 120 degrees in the summertime here. So, we're not as bad as Phoenix out in SoCal, but we're going to be getting some hot summers that a lot of the Midwest and back east doesn't get. So we'll get ours come summertime. So what I kind of wanted to start out talking about was ice machines, and I'm going to specifically talk about Hoshizaki ice machines because the video that I released this morning was on a Hoshizaki ice machine, and it was just it wasn't like a real full in-depth video. It was just kind of a quick tip. One of the most common problems that I get on a Hoshizaki ice machine is thin ice cubes, and it's very common when you have a dirty ice machine. Okay, and if you guys haven't watched my video already that I uploaded this morning, it basically, I had sediment stuck in the pump out springs check valve, and it was allowing the water from the water pump to bypass. So I'm not going to break them down like crazy in depth, but I'm going to give you guys just kind of a basic understanding of how the Hoshizaki ice machines work, okay? So first off, a Hoshizaki ice machine, when you turn the machine on, it is going to start in a harvest, okay? I'm not going to go through every single thing step by step. What I would highly, highly do or suggest you guys do is get a hold of your Hoshizaki distributor, get you one of these tech specs book, okay? I know a lot of people keep asking me how they can get them. What you need to do is you need to call Hoshizaki Parts direct, okay? Now, I'm sure you can call your supply houses too, but Hoshizaki has their own parts distribution supply houses, and you guys can order from them, okay? Out here, on the West Coast, they call it Hoshizaki Western, okay? And there's about 5 supply houses, 1 or 2 in California. There's one in Vegas. There's a couple of them, okay? So when I order my Hoshizaki parts, I don't order them from United Refrigeration or RSD or Allied or whatever, Johnstone, okay? I go directly to Hoshizaki, all right? So I know a lot of people have said they were having a hard time getting that book. I would highly suggest you guys get a hold of the Hoshizaki Parts Distribution Warehouse, and they will be able to sell you that book, okay? Or they will at least be able to give you the part number, so then you can go back to United Refrigeration or Johnstone or whoever you guys get your Hoshizaki parts from. I know a lot of people have been saying they've been having a hard time getting those. Now, you know, a lot of the manufacturers of refrigerators and ice machines are trying to get away from the printed books because they're trying to save money and whatnot, okay? But, you know, the way that I go to them is I don't ask for a free book. I ask them, hey, I want to buy 3 of those books. Can you give them to me, you know? And then I buy a couple at a time. That way I have them, okay? So I highly suggest you guys get that book if you're going to be working on Hoshizaki ice machines, okay? So I'm going to break their machines down, just kind of a quick overview, okay? So the ice machine's going to start in a harvest cycle. When it starts into a harvest cycle, what's going to happen is some hot gas valves are going to open up, depending on how big your machine is. Once the hot gas valves open up, it's going to warm up the evaporator, okay? When the refrigerant coming out of the evaporator makes its way to a thermistor that's mounted on the outlet of the, or mounted on the surface of one of the lines coming out of the evaporator, when that thermistor gets to a certain temperature, it's going to initiate a sequence, it's going to stop the harvest, then it's going to put the machine into a freeze mode, okay? Now, one of the, and again, I know there's more to it, guys, but I'm just kind of giving you guys the little quick, in a nutshell, breakdown, okay? So I'm just going to kind of go back and forth on different things on this. So it's very important to understand that when we are coming out of a harvest, that thermistor has to reach that certain temperature, okay? If I was more prepared, I'd tell you the exact temperature. I think it's like 48 degrees or something like that. But it has to reach that exact temperature, then it starts a timer sequence, then it basically ends the harvest, okay? Another really important thing when it comes to the harvest, and this is my, and I've had videos on this before, is that we have to have the right amount of water coming into the machine, okay? When we harvest a Hoshizaki ice machine, that's when we defrost the ice off of the evaporators, okay? 2 things happen. Number 1, we've got hot gas flowing through the refrigeration lines, okay? But the other thing that's happening is we're bringing fresh water into the machine. That fresh water has to come in at a certain rate, a flow rate. And if that fresh water is not coming in at the correct flow rate, then what you can have is consistent freeze-ups, okay? Those freeze-ups are what damage the Hoshizaki evaporators. I would say, I bet you a large percentage of the machines out there do not have the right flow rate coming into the machines. In the Hoshizaki Tech Specs book, okay, for the new guys that are coming in, I'll tell you right now, this guy right here, in the Tech Spec book, it is going to tell you what size lines you have to have. Now, it's not just the line size that matters, okay? It's still the flow rate of water, the gallons per minute at which that machine can fill. There's a really quick, really easy test. If you're looking in that Tech Specs book, it's going to tell you how many gallons per minute that particular machine via your model number requires. Most of the machines that I work on are the bigger machines, so they have a 5-gallon sump, okay? But if you look in the book, it's going to tell you how many gallons of water the water sump in that machine holds. So the quickest way to test the flow rate of the water coming into the machine is to turn the machine off, then turn it back into a freeze cycle, okay? The first thing it's going to do is it's going to start filling up with water. What you want to do is make sure your water sump is completely dry and out of water, okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to start a stopwatch when you turn the ice switch to on, right when the water starts to flow. And when the water comes out of the overflow, which would be down the bottom of the ice machine drain, once it starts coming out of the drain, you know you have filled that sump up. On my particular case, we're talking about a 5-gallon sump. So if you have a stopwatch going, and then the moment that you see water coming out of the drain, you know that you filled that sump up, you can stop your stopwatch, and then you can do the math to figure out the gallons per minute at which that machine is filling. That's one of the easiest ways. One of the first things I do after a freeze up on a Hoshizaki is we'll test the bin thermostat, and then we'll test the flow rate of the water inlet, okay? Now, things that can affect your water inlet is just plain and simple low building water pressure, okay? But dirty filters or improperly sized water lines, or in the instance of a Hoshizaki video I did about 2 months ago, someone installed the wrong water inlet valve on the machine, okay? You don't use the same water inlet valve for every single Hoshizaki machine. Again, open up that Tech Specs book, and it tells you via the part numbers on there what water valves to to put in the machine, okay? And it tells you the flow rate of each particular water valve. Hoshizaki makes like 5 or 6 different water valves, okay? So a couple months ago, I made a video where I found that someone had a water valve for like a 400-pound machine in a 1,600-pound machine, and it wasn't getting the right flow rate, and they had damaged evaporators and all kinds of stuff, okay? So really, really important when you're working on a Hoshizaki machine to make sure that you have the proper water flow coming into the machine, okay? And then you also follow the water line sizes that they recommend. And remember that just because you go to the hardware store or Home Depot or whatever and you pick up one of those braided water hoses that's 3/8 connections, it doesn't mean that the inlet of that hose is 3/8 in diameter, okay? Hoshizaki tells you that on, you know, whatever particular machine, they want a 3/8 ID water line coming into that machine, okay? 3/8 ID. So you got to keep that in mind. Whatever, and it changes per machine, so it's not always 3/8. Sometimes it's 1/2 inch, sometimes it's less, okay? Now, the reason why Hoshizaki is so critical on the water inlet, most all the other manufacturers, it's not as critical on the water inlet pressure or water inlet flow rate, okay? But Hoshizaki uses that water to harvest the ice. So remember, 2 things, like I said, the hot gas from the hot gas valves starts to warm the evaporators, but then they have to have that water flowing over, okay? The water does 2 things. Mainly, it breaks the seal or the vacuum that the ice has created on the evaporators, okay? Now, on some of the newer Hoshizaki machines, there's not a lot out in production yet, but on some of the newer ones, they also have a positive harvest feature where it'll actually turn on the water pump for a certain amount of time to help. And that is a big thing that they've been working on to try to make that work better, okay? So basically, you may see some different things. So you'll see water coming into the machine, fresh water. You'll see hot gas go into the evaporator, and then every once in a while, you'll see the water pump turn on and circulate water over too, okay? Hoshizaki's been doing a bunch of things to try to help some of the freeze-ups because they've been having a lot of freeze-up problems, and they've been having a lot of bad evaporators where evaporators are starting to separate. They had a huge run of that over the last 2 years where maybe 3 years, where they've had a lot of bad evaporators, okay? I'm sure there's something going on Hoshizaki's side, but I really, really think that the biggest thing is that people aren't realizing how important it is on a Hoshizaki ice machine to have the proper water flow coming into that machine, okay? And let me clarify again, just to reiterate, we're not talking about water pressure per se. We're talking about water flow, because you can have 60 pounds of pressure going to that ice machine and it still might not have the right flow, okay? So you got to make sure that you have the right water flow going into it, okay? So, okay, so really, really important on that. The next thing on a Hoshizaki ice machine that's going to happen is, or that I want to kind of point out, is that Hoshizaki ice machines rely on the water float to tell the machine when it's full of ice, or to tell itself when it's time to get rid of the ice off the evaporator, okay? So basically, as the water pump starts to flow, okay, and the evaporator starts to get cold when we go into the freeze cycle, slowly the water is going to get lower and lower inside that sump, okay, because the water's starting to freeze into ice cubes, okay? So as the water gets lower and lower and lower, the water float picks up on that. And then once the water float picks up on that, there's some timers involved in that. It knows that it's time to harvest the ice, okay? So it's really important to understand that. Now, you know, a lot of people like to blame a water float for a freeze up, okay? I don't really buy that, okay? Freeze ups, in my opinion, usually aren't caused by a water float, okay? Freeze ups, in my opinion, are usually caused by bad water flow coming into the machine, bad bin thermostats, or it could be some kind of other mechanical problem, hot gas valves not working or something like that, okay? But freeze ups, in my opinion, usually are not caused by a water float. So if you're chasing a water float down the, you know, be very, very cautious about just changing a water float, okay? It's very rare that water floats go bad. Hoshizaki has actually redesigned their water float and made it really less susceptible to calcium buildup. Their water floats used to be square and have sharp edges, and now they have like a rounded dome, and they really, calcium doesn't affect them as much as it used to a long time ago, okay? So just keep that in mind. So as far as a bin thermostat test, okay, that's one of the other things that can cause a freeze up on a Hoshizaki. So you again open up the tech specs book. Okay, everything I'm telling you guys is just stuff that I've read out of their book. Okay, you just got to open it up and read it. So in the book, it's going to tell you you take a scoop of ice and you submerge the bin thermostat. Now the newer machines have like a paddle switch, okay, but the older ones have a bin thermostat. So you submerge the bin thermostat in ice, and basically you count how many seconds it takes for the machine to turn off and for the machine to turn on. Now, if I can give you guys a tip, if you're working on an older machine that has a bin thermostat, take the machine out of freeze mode, turn the water pump on, put it into a wash cycle, and test the bin thermostat. The water pump will turn on and off even in the wash cycle with the ice touching the bin thermostat. So that's a really quick way of not having to wait for a compressor to turn on and then have to turn a compressor on and off, or listen for the circuit board to turn on and off. Just turn the water pump on, put your hand on the water pump, take that ice scoop, and put it on the bin thermostat. Now the newer machines, they've got that little paddle switch. It's a little bit different, okay? Again, just follow the book. The paddle switches, in my opinion, don't go bad as much, but the paddle switches are a little bit more susceptible, in my opinion, to calcium buildup. Calcium can get back behind the paddle switch, especially because people don't realize they have to clean those paddle switches, and they come apart, but you have to be very, very careful because you can damage them and break the little ears off of the paddle when you try to pull them apart. So you can pull that paddle apart. You can take it. You could submerge it in ice machine cleaner, and then go about that. But again, you guys need to read the Hoshizaki book. It's really, really going to help you guys with that stuff. Okay. Let's see. So we covered the freeze ups. I'm not going to go through everything on the Hoshis. Let's see. Obviously, I would highly suggest, if you guys are replacing any parts on a Hoshizaki ice machine, you always use the OEM parts. Don't try to get, and this is just personal preference. I'm not chastising anybody because they choose to buy aftermarket parts. Okay, I prefer to use OEM parts on on any ice machine. Okay, because they're designed specifically for that machine. Condenser fan motors aren't typically just a fan motor you pull out of your truck. Same thing with the water pumps and different stuff like that. Just try to stay with the OEM stuff. Your life will be a lot better when you stay with the OEM stuff. Okay, personal preference of mine. So, yeah, obviously just keeping the machines clean, okay? Hoshizaki machines can last a lot longer without cleanings, but still I highly recommend at a minimum a Hoshizaki ice machine is cleaned every 3 months. At least just like a fast cleaning and then like a thorough cleaning every 6 months. If you can get your customers to clean them more often, then it's much better that way, okay? But in all reality, most customers only clean their machines 2 times, maybe once a year. It just depends. If I could get them back to, at least a minimum of quarterly cleaning, I find that the service calls go down quite a bit and the machines last a lot longer. So, okay. Before I forget, I'm going to kind of probably stop talking about the Hoshizaki ice machines. Actually, I'll go up and check to see if there's any questions on them. Okay. But I wanted to say, just make a public announcement that I had mentioned we had a RSCS conference this past weekend. We had Mr. Eugene Silberstein. He's the author of a lot of different books. He works with the ESCO company. He came out and talked about air balance and psychrometrics. I just want to say thanks a lot to Eugene for coming out. That was really cool of him. You guys, I've had a lot of people ask me about RSCS. RSCS is a regional organization. They're nationwide. They're even in Canada. They do training for air conditioning and refrigeration. If you can find a local chapter that's active, I'd highly recommend you guys look into RSCS. It's a great resource, and my chapter is very active. We're the Arrowhead chapter here in San Bernardino, California, and we do a meeting the second Tuesday of every month, and then once a year we do a big seminar, which is what we just did with Mr. Eugene Silverstein this past weekend. So, but thanks again to him. So before I forget, I just wanted to mention that. So, let's see. I'm assuming, Carlos, you're asking me, Carlos Cervantes. You said, how can you apply with me? Anybody that's interested in sending me a resume or anything, just email my email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. One of these days, I'll give the Nightbot that email address. That way it can kind of post it throughout the stream here. I'm just going to go ahead and type it in here. You guys can email me any questions you guys have. Anything that I don't get to in this chat, you guys, go ahead, send me those questions and stuff, okay? Okay, so I'm going to go in here real quick and just see if I missed anything in the chat before I go too much further, and see if there's anything going on. Okay, so let me go down in here. Okay, cool. Seeing what I'm missing here. Yeah, definitely suggest you guys get the Hoshizaki book. You can download them too. Just go to Hoshizaki America's website and you can download all the manuals and books and different things. But I just prefer to have a paper book in my hand. It's a great, great resource. So hello to everybody that's saying hi. Sorry I didn't get to you guys yet. So, okay. So DJ Subair, you said where am I at? I'm assuming you're asking where I'm at. I'm in Riverside, California. So. Okay, gonna keep going down here. Yeah, there you go. Sackman Do you said in the Ohio area it's Hoshizaki North Central. So, just look for the Hoshizaki parts houses because you'll have much better resources there. Now, I will say the interesting thing is that the Hoshizaki parts houses really aren't that much cheaper in my area. What they started doing was they started stocking a lot of their parts at like United Refrigeration and RSD and Allied Refrigeration out here, which is a good resource. You can get the factory parts from those guys too. So, and the prices aren't too much cheaper, so, or more expensive. So, okay. Brian Milburn, you said, anywhere else take the family out to eat and randomly check your ice cubes to see what kind of ice machine they use? Yes, I do. And it's funny you bring that up. I posted some videos about dirty Manitowoc ice machines. Okay, we've all seen dirty ice machines. They all exist. I'm going to tell you guys that I still eat ice. You guys, that stuff doesn't freak me out as long as I don't see things crawling in the ice machines. If I know I have a restaurant that doesn't service their stuff and it's one of my restaurants, yeah, I might not eat there, but I'm going to be honest with you. So long as I'm not going to the famous sandwich shop that everybody knows where you can get $5 footlongs, I get ice pretty much everywhere else, okay? Ignorance is bliss. If it's not one of my customers, I just kind of, move on. As long as I don't see something nasty in my machines, I'll get it and I'll drink it, doesn't freak me out too much, so. All right. I'd love to talk about other ice machines too, but I'm not going to fill this one up. Maybe next time we'll talk about Manitowoc ice machines. So, okay. CB. Yeah, see, that's it, man. There's some places. I mean, if it's a place that I really, really know is going to be disgusting, I won't go there in general. If they can't keep up their ice machines, they can't keep up their other equipment. But I still go to fast food and get a soda or water, iced tea or whatever. And, I don't really stress too much. So, all right, going to keep going down here, seeing what I'm missing. Yeah, I hope that solves your problem, Greg. Greg Burnett said he picked up his water valve. You were the one, Greg, talking to me about I was communicating with you about a freeze up, right? I believe that was you. So hopefully that fixes your problem. Jeff, you said, so just run copper. Let's see. The smaller machine, they come 1/2-inch thread connection. I use 1/2-inch CPVC. Yeah, I don't know if I'm missing something there, Jeff. Hoshizaki, I mean, I've used PEX lines before too. PEX, actually, I'll be honest with you, PEX lines, if you get the food safe ones, they actually, in my opinion, have better flow than using some of these braided fittings and whatnot. So the only problem with the PEX lines is they don't, you can't make them look as pretty. You can't, I mean, I know you can put 90s everywhere, but that's defeating the whole purpose of using PEX. So it's hard to keep them looking really, really pretty. I've done a few of them in PEX, and I mean, it turned out okay. They were easier. It's just a little bit difficult. Case Services LLC, you ask, when is my next giveaway? I don't know. Let me lean on Milwaukee Tools and see if they want to send me something for a giveaway. We'll see. I'll see if I can't get something going on. I'm trying not to kill you guys with tool reviews and whatnot. So, but I'll see if I can't dig up some stuff to give away. Let me reach out to a couple manufacturers and see what we can do. I'd really, it'd be really cool, but I don't think they're interested in it, is if Hoshizaki could send me a bunch of those tech specs books. Maybe I'll send them an email. I know they subscribe to my channel. I could ask them if they could send me a bunch of tech specs books, and I can give those away too, because I know people would dig those. So, okay. Kind of going down in here, seeing if I'm missing anything. Keep on going. Bear with me here. Hoshizaki Flakers. It's been a while since I've worked on a Hoshizaki Flaker, but those things are pretty darn easy. Just got to keep them clean. When you start hearing a Hoshizaki Flaker screaming at you as the gear motor's turning and you hear the sounds like coming out of the gear motor. Sorry, I know that probably sounded crazy, but that's usually what they sound like. That's usually an indication of a dirty evaporator barrel on the Hoshizaki machines, and they're just trying to scrape the stuff off the sides. So, yeah, the Hoshizaki Flakers, they're not too bad. I used to work on them a lot, you know. Biggest thing on a Hoshizaki Flaker is the gear motors. They would fail because people weren't cleaning them properly. You need to do your bearing checks on the gear motors. If you guys open up, again, tech specs book right here. If you open up to the back, it used to be that they had a separate book for the Flakers. Right there's a little piano wire. That's a bearing gauge for the Flaker ice machines. So you take that out. Got to read the book, and it explains how to do it, but you basically don't want that to be inserted into a certain part of the bearing. And that's how you test to see if the bearing's starting to have wear on a Flaker ice machine. So it used to be that Hoshizaki had two different books. They had one for the Flaker and one for the cubers, but now they basically have the Flakers on the backside, cuber stuff, and it's all in one book. So those same books you can get from every ice machine manufacturer out there. So, okay. Kenny Brown, you ask if I do any hot side repairs in my restaurants. No, I don't. I don't do any hot side work at all. I just do refrigeration and air conditioning, so just HVACR. So, yeah, Damien. Damien says knowledge is the giveaway. I'm running out of knowledge, guys. Now, but any recommendations for refrigeration specific books? Julius, I don't know if you saw the beginning part of the stream. If you want refrigeration books, Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians by Dick Wers is one of the best refrigeration books out there. Other than that, you can lean on individual manufacturers for product specific information, and they can get you that information. Okay, so but I highly suggest the Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians. So. Okay, going to keep going down here. Yeah, exactly. Radziok, you said, just Google Hoshizaki Tech Specs PDF available for download. That's right. You can download it yourself onto your phone. Also, on the newer Hoshizaki ice machines, they have a QR code on them. You just scan the QR code with your phone, and then it'll automatically open up it'll take you to their webpage where the book is at. So it's really easy. Steve Havasi, you said, can I do an in-depth cleaning of an ice machine? Well, I can and I can't, okay? So, and I'm going to go ahead and address this right now. I have had a lot of people asking me to make my videos longer, to show more details, to show me doing the actual work. I don't want to disappoint you guys, but that is what that is not what my channel is about. I will never, ever be a do-it-yourself YouTube channel. Okay, I refuse to be a DIY YouTube channel. So, strategically, when I make a video, I usually show you the problem. I usually show you some interesting things while I'm repairing it, and then I show you the end result. Now, I don't mind showing a little bit of cleaning or a little bit of this, but I do not want my videos to ever be a resource for a non-HVAC service technician to come in and try to do the work without having to call a properly trained service technician, okay? So for those of you that are worried about it, I will never be that channel. And for those of you that are asking me, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be a do-it-yourself channel. Now, I do have some videos where I kind of talk about the cleaning process very thoroughly. I have a Hoshizaki ice machine service video where I talk about how I clean a machine and the interesting steps that I do. I'm kind of looking for a video right now, and I'll share it with you guys. And I have no problem telling you guys about that stuff. I will never show you every single step of my cleaning processes, okay? Number one, because that hurts my YouTube channel. Not so much that I'm concerned about my YouTube channel, but YouTube, if I make a 30-minute video and only 2% of you watch that full video, YouTube doesn't like that. and they de-rank my channel essentially, or whatever as you want to call it. But I mean, that's not the main reason why I do it. It's mainly just because I do not want to be a DIY channel ever. Okay. So let me find this video right now, and I'll share a link to it, and you guys can. And if you guys notice too, on my channel, I have playlists. So all my videos are categorized in playlists. So if you go to my channel and you look up the ice machine playlist, you'll find all my ice machine videos. If you go to the refrigeration playlist, you'll find refrigeration and the air conditioning and so forth, exhaust fans and all that. Okay. So I try to organize it in playlists. I wish that YouTube had a better setup as far as their organization goes. So, but they don't. So, yeah. And Hoshizaki does have a YouTube channel. Almost everybody has a YouTube channel. So let me see. I'm looking for this. Okay, here it is right here. So let me pull this up and make sure it doesn't start, because I think it's going to try to start the video. Nope. Okay, so that's perfect. Let me click share and Control C. And let me go ahead and share this in the chat. Control V. Oops, that's not it. There we go. Just one sec. If you guys want to copy and paste this link, that's a good way to. Hey, Mike, how you doing? You finally made it, because I started late today, huh? So, Mike Harrison, he's been asking me to start my streams a little bit later, and I was running late today, so he was able to make it. So, yeah. So I just shared a link to the Hoshizaki video where I made. Okay, Ryan B., you asked me, what do I work on that gives me the greatest satisfaction? My favorite thing to do is when I do get to do like refrigeration installations and retrofits, because I don't do new construction, but I do retrofit work. My favorite thing is working with the tubing benders, being able to go into a job and, especially with like 3/8 and 1/2 inch, and make a really good, clean job. Bending everything, minimal braze joints, nice clean bends. I love doing installation. I love working with my benders. Love doing that kind of stuff. I like to be able to finish installation job and step back and look at it and say, man, the next guy that works on this is going to be happy because everything is serviceable. I really like doing that. And of course I love troubleshooting too. So, okay, so hang on. Let's see. G. Martinez, you say you're feeling extra trollish. Did I say something that was trollable? Oh, I gotcha. HVAC school shirt. Okay, gotcha. Oh, come on, man. I got to support HVAC school. Even if everybody doesn't like HVAC school, I have a shirt, I put it on. So, all right, I see what you're saying there, bud. All right. Okay, I'm going to go back up here and see what I missed. What's on the CD in the WERS book? I believe it's questions. I believe it's like chapter review questions, Jay Juarez. I believe that's what it is. So, okay, so, yeah, that's kind of what I go with. JBug06, beginning, middle, end. I usually don't show the whole thing, so, okay. Gonna keep going down in here. Seeing what I'm missing in the chat, guys. So, yeah. Seeing here. What's the worst AC I had to fix? JBug06, you asked. I found some interesting ones. So last summer, I haven't even fixed this one yet, but last summer I posted a video of a 5-ton split system in a restaurant that had basically enough ductwork for a 2-ton system. I believe it had one 14-inch supply coming off of the plenum, and that was it. And then that 14-inch supply ran for 60 feet and then split off to 3 different registers. The restaurant finally just approved that repair. I have the equipment sitting in my shop. So we're going to be doing that one here soon. That was a really interesting one. So, someone else had installed a split system, and yeah, it had one 14-inch run coming off of it, and it was a 5-ton split system. It had a leak in the evaporator coil, so I condemned the whole thing and it's a fan coil unit, so there's no heat at all. So I just got a whole new fan coil, and hopefully going to be doing that in the next month or so. So that was all the way from last year. That was an interesting one. Okay, gonna keep going down here. Okay, interesting, Chris E. Let me see if I can find another one here. Huh. Should work. It pulled right up on my phone, my computer. Let me try it again here. Copy. Control C. Let's try this again, Chris E. Control V. See if this works. Waiting for it to post here. Just a sec. There we go. I don't know if this is the same link or not. Try that one, okay? So, what determines how you position the bin switch on an ice machine, Mike Harrison? So, on a Hoshizaki ice machine, they basically make it plain and simple for you. The older machines have a thermostatic bin switch, okay? So, basically, it's a temperature controller, okay? And it already has a bracket that's set up. It is important that you pay attention because the bracket, depending on what machine you are, there is an extension you have to add to that bracket depending on the bin too. But it's pretty much all set up on a Hoshizaki. And on the newer machines, they have like a paddle switch. And the same thing, like you don't move the bin switch at all. It comes factory installed and you just leave it where it is, unless it needs to be extended down, of which the factory has an extension kit for it. So usually it's nothing that you're going to change in the field. You just keep it where it's supposed to be, unless the machine is like completely butchered. If someone's trying to make a non-dispenser machine, trying to work on a dispenser, then you'd have to do some interesting stuff to make it work. But okay. What is the most facepalm W2F call you had where it was something so simple like the client just had something unplugged or didn't turn on the system? Well, exactly it. I've had multiple calls where you go out there and the client just has something unplugged. I'm trying to think about that one for a minute. Let me think if I have a really funny one. I mean, there's so many of them where the clients have called me and I try to walk my clients through things on the phone and say, hey, I'm sorry, Chris E. I'll have to share that later or something. I don't know why the links aren't working in here. That's strange. Okay, so it works for you, HVACR trucker? That's weird. Oh, okay, so you said the second link does work. Okay, I'm sorry. I read that the wrong way. Yeah, I don't know why it didn't work the first time. But as far as weirdest calls, I'll have to think about that. Maybe I'll talk about that on the next stream because I come across some weird stuff. Someone had asked a little while ago if I work for myself. Yes, I have my own refrigeration and air conditioning company. I work with my dad. I was trained by my dad many years ago. And we work together now. We own the company together and run it together. So, yes, I've never worked for anybody else but the company I work for now. So, all right. How do you... okay, cool. Robbie G. Interesting you asked this question. He says, how do you unroll soft copper and keep it straight? You can never get it to look good, so you prefer running rigid. Okay, if you're going to do a piping job, then yes, you do need to run rigid because you're never going to keep it straight. But there's some tricks you can do. So if you're on the roof... what I would suggest you do, and I just had a technician where one of my guys, we were just talking about this about a week ago when we were doing an ice machine installation, is find the roof lines from like the tar paper that's on the roof. Usually you can see lines, or you can find straight lines from the PTO roof or something like that, and use those straight lines as a guide for you. What you do is you place the copper on the ground, and I could probably try to make like an Instagram video or something like that, but you place the copper on the ground. You very carefully make sure you get the outside of the roll. You don't want to unroll from the inside of the roll. You start it with your hand, just roll it flat, then carefully put your foot on it and keep stepping on the copper carefully not to smash it and roll it out as you're stepping on it. That's a really easy way. If you're working down in the restaurant, use the grout lines on the tile. And the grout lines are usually pretty straight too. So that's the best way that you can get soft copper to be straight, basically. Okay, but if you're going to be running a long line set, and it's going to be visible and you're worried about the looks, then I'd highly suggest you go with rigid, because rigid is the only way it's going to look really pretty. Okay, so Jack Durf, you said, can you have some free consulting? I don't know what you mean by that. If you want to email me something, Jack, I can talk to you in an email if you got questions. I don't know if you're a business owner or a restaurant owner or something. I have no problem if you want to email me and I can talk to you over email or something like that. Sure. So, how often do ice machines get cleaned? Well, it's Joe65. Basically, you need to clean them At a minimum, I would say every 3 months. It all depends on the water quality that you have in that situation, where your ice machine's located. Do you have a lot of like a lot of yeast in the air from like, sandwich shops and whatnot? They'll get a lot of slime buildup in their machines because they have that yeast in there, and it just gets into the ice and it just makes it nasty. Okay, so it just depends on your situation and what you have in your restaurant. That would warrant more cleanings or less cleanings. If you have like a Manitowoc ice machine, they require a lot more cleaning. I would say a Manitowoc definitely needs to be cleaned every 3 months. But one could argue, we used to joke that the Hoshizaki machines, you could weld them shut and not touch them for a year. They'll be nasty inside, but for the most part, they'll keep making ice. Okay, but a Manitowoc ice machine, those things need to be cleaned. I mean, they won't last 6 months without being cleaned. They'll start breaking down because of all the water sensors and stuff. At this moment in time, Hoshizaki isn't using sensors inside the water area. For the most part, they're just using a thermostat on the refrigeration line outside of the water area. So they've done really good at making their machines last a lot longer and not have to be cleaned as much. But they'll still be nasty inside, but they'll still just keep making ice. So, okay. Keep going down in here. Oh, yeah, I'm sure, G. Martinez, I'm sure I got a bunch of stuff that you can troll me on. So, keep going down in here. See what else I'm missing here. Let's see. What I say too on ice machines, I get this question a lot. How come I don't use PVC drain lines? I always use copper when I'm piping an ice machine, whether it be a Hoshizaki or a Manitowoc. The reason why I do so, most of the time, it's very difficult when you run a drain line to replace it. So on the newer Fullet machines, a lot of times they have a smart gate system where the machine sits up 3 feet and then they have a cart that goes underneath them. Those ones are a lot easier to get to. But most of the time, an ice machine's pushed back into a tight space. And what I find is cleaning crews come through and they try to clean underneath the ice machine, and they'll usually grab a squeegee and then they'll yank on things and they get it stuck on the drain lines and they bust the PVC drain lines, and then it's a mess to try to repair. That is my worst. I hate fixing PVC drain lines on ice machines. So, personal preference, that's why I always use copper drain lines on ice machines. That's just the way that I do it. And the cool thing about copper drain lines, I got a bunch of people being pissed off about my comments, but what I usually do is I braze or I solder the copper lines together. So at a spot where, once I've soldered all the lines and they're good, I'll usually take the ice drain and if I've got 2 ice machines sitting on there, and the 2 machine drains, and then in a very convenient spot, I'll just very carefully heat them up and lay a bead of solder on there. And that usually adds all the support you need for the most part. Sometimes you'll have to put like one more support somewhere, but I find that it makes it very easy by soldering the lines together. I just prefer copper. So just a personal preference. Okay, keep going down here. Joel Monegro, you said most of the time coming without the extension connection. Yeah, that is one thing that Hoshizaki does do. I don't know why. They don't necessarily always send the long extension with their machines. So a lot of times if you're selling a new machine or you come up on a machine that has had a lot of freeze ups, if you look at it, it needs that extension bracket. That video that I posted a link to, I talked about the extension bracket because that's something that I added to that machine to help reduce the freeze ups on there. So, okay, so Iman, you said you were an electrician for 3 months. You loved the work, but absolutely hated the tradesman. You haven't entered for your first year HVAC apprenticeship. Be humble and just learn as much as you can, man. HVAC is a great, great career. And the fact that you came from an electrical apprenticeship, or you were an electrician, that maybe you've got some electrical skills. I'm going to say that HVAC is going to mash plumbing, electrical, and just basic common sense. You got to have them all to be an HVAC technician. We really do a lot when it comes to HVAC and refrigeration. We are constantly working, doing electrical work, doing plumbing work, solving electrical problems and plumbing problems. We're doing it all. So we'll definitely help you guys. Oh yeah, that was an interesting one. DJ Sub Air. He reminded me that I had a service call. I had to drive. That was a very good point there, DJ Sub Air. So I had to drive about 2 hours away from our shop because of ice machine that wasn't working. No, the complaint was water was going everywhere. I think I can't remember what the complaint was. But anyways, I had to drive out there, and people cleaning with the squeegee pushed on the ice machine drain. I don't even know how they did it, and they shoved it onto the tile completely. Oh, that's right. Okay, so this it's coming back to me now. So the service call was on the ice bin was leaking. There was water leaking all over the ice bin and out of the ice bin. So what was happening was the ice bin drain had got pushed up out of the floor sink onto the tile and completely sealed off 100%. So no water from the ice bin could drain out there. So as the ice melted in the ice bin, the water just built up inside of there. So I literally had to go out there and grab the drain line, and I made a video on it and just yank on the drain line and pulled it down into the drain. What I did was I actually cut it shorter so that way it could never happen again. But that was a silly call. I had to drive 2 hours out there, build for 2 hours, and then drove 2 hours back to the shop and didn't get paid for those 2 hours. Well, the company didn't get paid for those 2 hours. And yeah, that was kind of a silly one. That was a silly call for sure. So, okay, Orlansky Ellis, you ask, constantly adjust the Hoshizaki bin thermostat. Can it fill? Okay, I highly suggest you never ever adjust a bin thermostat. The only, in my opinion, personal preference, the only reason why I would ever adjust a bin thermostat is if I was in a really high elevation, okay, Colorado, or something like that. Really, really high elevations, I imagine you would need to adjust the bin thermostat. But most other times, if the bin thermostat, it comes factory set, and I never adjust them. If the bin thermostat is not, working correctly, you change it. Adjusting it, it might get you by, but there's no reason to. So I personally don't ever adjust bin thermostats. And like I said, going into high elevations, I've never even, adjusted one for high elevations. But I would imagine that, someone working up in Colorado or Denver or something like that would have to maybe adjust them on startup. But then after that, you should never have to adjust a bin thermostat again. I know there's a screw slot on there, but really you shouldn't. I just don't even touch them. So, okay, keep going down. What's the worst HVACR pump down gone wrong story you have heard or if you have dealt with personally? I'm assuming, okay, so I don't know what you mean by HVACR pump down. Okay, so, I pump systems down via the receiver. I can tell you one thing. This was interesting. This was when I don't know if this is what you were asking me, but I don't know if you were kind of like implying the ones that have exploded on the microchannel coils and stuff. I've never seen that. But I do have a story from when I was first coming up. It was probably 6 months working with my dad. Had just started in 2002-ish or something like that. And we went out to do a replacement. What did we do? We went out to go pump something down so they could replace some bar equipment. That's what it was. And what I did was I put our service gauges on there. And so what we were going to do was we were going to put our service gauges on there, pump it down, and then cut the lines loose. And then we were going to come back a couple days later after they've replaced some bar equipment, and we were going to hook the system back up. So not knowing, how things worked was I went up onto the roof, put the service gauges on the receiver, front seated the valve, pumped all the refrigerant out of the low side, cut the lines, pinched them off, and welded them shut. So that way we wouldn't get any moisture in the condensing unit. Then we went to go take the gauges off, and I realized that I had put the gauges or the high side gauge on the receiver port and front seated it. So I had no way of getting the gauges off of the receiver port because it had pressure behind it at all times. So if you guys understand how a king valve works on a receiver, a typical king valve only has 1/4 inch port coming out of it. And when you pump it down, there's always or when you front seat it, there's always going to be pressure at that king valve or that 1/4 inch port. The only time that there's not pressure at that 1/4 inch port is when it's back seated all the way. So because I had pumped the system down and already cut the system loose and then brazed the line shut, I couldn't take the service gauges off. And we had to leave them there. Now, at the time, my dad wasn't the most prepared person, and he only had one set of service gauges. They were just the analog set of service gauges. So we had to leave them there and then go buy another set and wait until the job was done to be able to get our service gauges back. So that was something that I learned, you know, one of those silly mistakes that you make. So, okay. Luke Stoltz, you said this live stream isn't live. Well, it's live, bro. I'm here. We're live right now. We should be live. We better be live. Yeah, we're still live. Hello. All right. Keep going down. What is the best refrigeration leak detector? JYPHC. I can't tell you which one's the best, but I can tell you the one that I really, really like and have used for probably 5-6 years at a minimum is the DTEC Select. That is always the leak detector that I've used. So, love it, you know, a lot. Does HVAC pay decent? Luke, it depends on where you're at, what part of the country. Here in Southern California, an HVAC apprentice can start anywhere from $15 to $18 an hour, depending on how good their stuff is. And the sky is the limit as to the top out pay, depending on companies and little sectors that you go into. And restaurant refrigeration, you know, experienced techs can make anywhere from $25 to $35 an hour. And then once you get into management, you can make more than that. But you can go industrial, you can go big commercial, you can make more money. There's plenty of money to be made. So it just depends on what part of the country you're in, though, because the cost of living is really high here, so we have to pay a little bit more. Other places you might top out at $15, $20 an hour, but the cost of living might be a lot lower. So HVAC is definitely a good trade, and you can make great money. See you later, G Martinez. All right. Cool runnings refrigeration. If the machine is outside in the winter, you have to adjust the stat. Okay, so I guess I see what you're saying there. Imagine maybe a hotel ice machine that's in a hallway, you know. Most of the time, you know, they do make a machine, I believe, specifically for that situation. So I guess I can see what you're saying, you know, but that's not a typical installation where a machine is located outside. But I guess I can see why you would have to adjust a bin thermostat in that situation, for sure. So, okay. Brian Milburn, you got it spot on, dude. It all depends on your ability. You can absolutely make good money. So, definitely. Yes, exactly, Joel Monegro. A lot of people and customers trying to fix or touching the units just because they see it's an easy fix like they see on YouTube. Yep. That's definitely true. So that's why I'm very cautious. You know, I understand, you know, there's going to be some business owners and different people that are going to watch my videos, and that's fine. They can watch them, you know, but I try to express the importance of using service technicians to work on your stuff because there's a lot of technical stuff that goes on in our repairs. And unfortunately, YouTube is just just one of those things. Honestly, if you asked me 3 years ago about YouTube videos, I'd say I hated them. I didn't like anything about them, but it's one of those things where, you know, it's just, it's the way that a lot of people are learning now. So that's why I'm doing them. You know, I don't necessarily agree that YouTube is the only training resource that a technician should have. I still to this day think that a technician needs to go to an HVAC school and then do a proper apprenticeship and work their way up. I don't agree with people just learning and getting thrown to the wolves. That's personal preference. I'm not saying that's bad. Some people like to learn that way. So, you know, it is what it is. All right. Okay. Worst compressor failure you were a witness or have heard of. What do you think was the cause? I don't know how to pronounce your name. It's Zozette Let. Sorry if I don't pronounce that right or butcher it. I have a video on a compressor replacement. Let's see if I can find it. And it was a very, very interesting one because it was a middle of the night service call. Pardon me, my nose is itching like crazy right now. It was a middle of the night service call. And it was really funny because what I found inside the suction service valve of the compressor was the cap that came with the suction service valve when it was installed 6 years previous. Don't think that the cap was necessarily the cause. It was actually acting as a pressure reducer, but it was a very interesting, kind of blew my mind. And if you watch the video, I'm going to post a link to it here in just a second. If you watch the video through, just copy and paste the link and watch it later. But if you watch it through, you'll see the point where I'm changing the compressor and then I say, what the, And then I look down and you guys see the cap as I'm pulling it out of the service valve at the same time. So hold on, I'm going to find that video right now and share it. Gosh, my nose, man. Gosh, that was one of my first videos. That was a long time ago. And that was a overtime service call on a walk-in freezer, I think, or something like that. So I was there until 4 in the morning or something like that. That was a long night. All right, here we go. We're coming up. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Here we go. Late night walk-in freezer call. Let me pull this up and I'll post this link in here right now. So let me hit play. Okay, and then let me hit share. Why is this not? Okay, so share. Let's see if this link works now. Control C. I'm going to post it right now. Control V. Someone click on this link and tell me if it works. I did this the same way that I did the first one. Is it normal to make mistakes at the beginning? HVAC apprentice, I still make mistakes to this day. I am not an expert. I'm just a person that's made a lot of mistakes, and I've learned from them. Okay? So the technician that I am today, which is a mediocre technician, is because of the mistakes that I've made and the mistakes that I've learned from. So, exactly, Ryan B. If you aren't making mistakes, you aren't learning. That is the truth, for sure. Okay, so let me go through here and see if I'm missing anything. Okay, so that's it. Okay. Yes, John Hagel. Yes, in my opinion, this is my personal preference. Other people like other machines. I think that a Hoshizaki machine has an overall longer lifespan than a Manitowoc ice machine. But I will say that all ice machine manufacturers are starting to manufacture with a little bit less quality, in my opinion, and they're not meant to last just so long. Okay, so. All right, let's go next here. Oh, I see what you're saying. Cool runnings. It's because there's a delay. So what you guys, the chat, I believe, is faster than the chat is like instant, and the video has like a 2-second delay or something. That's probably why you saw that. Okay. Let me go up in here and see what I'm missing. Condensing unit, 2 compressors run in tandem, not factory at all. You assume the original tech ordered the wrong compressor that was too small and had another one covers this. I don't know what you mean by that, Robbie G, but you did remind me of something. I had a service call too. I had just taken over a store from another restaurant, and they had an AC unit that wasn't working right, and went onto the roof to check it out, and the compressor was going off on thermal overload. And what had happened was they had another company install the compressor like in the wintertime, and now it was summertime. So it had been a couple months, and they installed a 460 volt compressor on a 208 volt service. So the compressor was going off on thermal overload. That was an interesting one. I just basically washed my hands of it and told them to call the other company back because they wanted to get it under warranty. So, all right, cool. No, Jack Durf, I've never worked on chiller units. So, never, ever. Okay. Thanks so much, Mike Harrison. I really appreciate it. You guys, I hope you guys like the videos. You know, I try to make them decent and trying to show as much relevant information. I make them for technicians as either entertainment or educational value, whatever you guys want to get out of it. And I hope that, you know, like I said, I like to show what I would be interested in watching, which is, you know, the cool little interesting tips I can give, and then, you know, usually the problem, the middle, and then the solution. So, all right. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting when people think they can do stuff, Terry, and then, yeah, messes things up for sure. Okay, I'm going back up here to see if I'm missing anything. Yeah, I'm not a fan of throwing into the wolves. 164,795. You know, I mean, I get it. There's some aspect to that. I mean, when we hire a new person like an apprentice or something like that, I mean, there's going to be some aspect of them having to learn and have to get out there and do things. But at the same time, you know, they need to work with me. In an ideal world, an apprentice that comes to work for me is going to work with me and ride with me in my van for a year. That's in an ideal world, and I'd love to have them in there longer, but it's hard for me to be able to pay them, you know, to ride for a year. Good gosh. I don't know if it's a nervous twitch or what, but my nose is itching like crazy. So you guys have any more questions in here? I'd love to answer some more questions. If not, we're probably going to start wrapping this up because we've been going for about an hour. So let me look. Okay. Nathan Ackerman, field piece or testo, and why? I'm a field piece fan. I've had very limited testo products. I don't want to talk trash about testo. There's some things that I don't like about them, and I'm going to mention them. Number one, I don't know if you guys can understand this. Testo is made for the European market. So a lot of their instruction manuals and ways that they do things are based off of the metric system. Now, yes, they do relabel their stuff and do different things to make it better, but that's one thing. I'm not a fan of that. Again, I'm not talking trash about Testo, just saying what I don't like about them, okay? Another thing about Testo that I've heard and read about a lot is that they've got a lot of different divisions, and those divisions don't communicate. So, for instance, let's say you've got the Testo Smart Probes. The Testo Smart Probes don't necessarily work. I've heard that they have different apps for different products, and they don't just have one single app that runs everything. That's just the thing that I've heard. Again, I'm not trying to talk trash about Testo. Field Piece has come a long way. They were a lower, cheaper quality tool when I first came up, when I was much younger in the late 90s. But their quality has gotten so much better, in my opinion. Okay, I'm a fanboy for Field Piece. I love their stuff. Now, there's things that I like their job link probes, but for instance, the iManifold range is still better, even though I don't care for the iManifold app anymore. Okay, that's just a personal preference. That's just my opinion. Okay, but Field Piece has the best overall quality with their Smart Pro or with their job link probes. I've been testing a new Field Piece manifold because I'm a beta tester for Field Piece. So oftentimes I'll be testing a product. So I've been testing a new manifold that they just announced for over a year now. And there's multiple other testers across the United States. There's probably 20 of us. And they've been doing a lot of work on that manifold, and it's a great manifold. Okay, so I'm just a Field Piece fanboy. Their warranty is the greatest when stuff breaks. I'm lucky because I'm local to Field Piece, so they're in Anaheim, California, and I work in that area, so I'll just go swing by there, talk to people at Field Piece, and they usually swap out my tools whenever they break for the most part, unless it's something blatant. They've always been great to me. So Field Piece I just like them a lot. So okay, gonna keep going down. Joel Monegro, I'll see what I can do, man. Try to remember. Yeah, commercial refrigeration and stuff. Yeah, it's definitely the Coke, man. That's what's killing my nose. It's funny because when I started scratching my nose, I started thinking that. I'm like, people are going to think I'm like a drug user or something. Yeah. All right. What do I think about market refrigeration? Carlos? I think market refrigeration, I've never done market refrigeration, but I know there's money to be made there. I know you're going to work your butt off from what I've heard. You're going to be working all the time. You do have to be okay with overtime, because I don't think overtime is a choice when you're working in supermarkets. I think it's just basically part of how things work. I definitely think you're going to be better off if you are just starting in the industry, starting and working your way up to market refrigeration. I'm not saying that a market refrigeration company wouldn't hire an apprentice, but I'm saying learn the small stuff and work your way up. But if you've got the skills, man, you could jump right into it, and one of those companies will hire you and start you in an apprenticeship, and you could work your way up. Okay. No, that's right. Commercial refrigeration and stuff. No one brand is best at everything. I mean, everybody's got something that I don't like about them. Everybody's got a certain product that I don't want to use. I'm a Field Piece fanboy, but I'm not necessarily going to take every single one of their products and buy it. Okay. In my opinion, they just have a great customer service at Field Piece. So that's just a personal preference. What kind of sanitizer do I run through a Hoshizaki? I use the new Calgon IMS sanitizer, I believe, is what I use. So, Jack Durf, you said your neighbor does HVAC, mainly does walk-in split systems and exhausts. Yep. Yeah, and that's something people have actually asked me, Jack, why I don't strap a GoPro to my head. But the thing I don't like about GoPros is that They don't get the right point of view. But I don't know. I've been thinking about getting one, but I wouldn't necessarily just leave it strapped to my head at all times. One of the other things I didn't like about GoPros for a long time was the image stabilization, but they seem to have fixed that with their new GoPro Hero 7. So, okay, going to keep going down here. Fastest time on a compressor or evaporator change out, start and finish. Robbie G, I don't know, man. I'm probably slower than most because I don't rush through things. I usually take my time. If I'm quoting a typical compressor on a reach-in cooler, it's going to be about a 6-hour quote unless there's something special. If it's a remote system, it's going to be an 8-hour quote. If it's an AC compressor, it's going to be an 8-hour quote, if not more. So I'm not in there to slam them in and get out. I'm in there to put them in, do it right, run them, figure out what happened, and move on. I'm definitely not the fastest company out there because I like to do things. So, okay. Yeah, definitely a great point, HVACR trucker. Yeah, riding with the owner or the boss, then ride with the employee or technician. That's true. You know, yeah, I get that. All right. Chico, you said, what cleaner and sanitizer do I get? My Hoshizaki cleaners can't find any of the recommended ones in any supply houses here in San Diego. Yeah, you're not going to find Hoshizaki cleaner at a normal supply house. You would have to order it. So if you aren't going to go with Hoshizaki cleaner, I would highly suggest you look into Refrigeration Technologies, the Hvacr cleaners that they have. I've been testing out their Hvacr nickel safe ice machine cleaner, which does not have citric acid in it. And that's something that can be used on a Hoshizaki ice machine. Their Hvacr nickel safe ice machine cleaner is a pretty darn good cleaner. As far as the sanitizer goes, I just use the new Calgon IMS 2, I think is what it's called, sanitizer, and just watch out because it foams up. So be prepared for the foam when you're doing the sanitizer. Big and Nasty 909 is $15 to start good with no experience straight out of school. Just depends, man. Just depends on you know, where you're going to work. 15 doesn't sound horrible, man. I see a 909. So are you in the 909? Are you in the Inland Empire? Inland Empire, $15 an hour. That's not a bad rate if that's where you are. I'm assuming you're 909 because it says 909. That's our area code out here, guys. I'll wait for you to respond on that before I answer anymore. Yeah, do things properly. That is right. So I try to be thorough as best as I can. Any more questions, guys? You guys post anything else up? If not, we're probably going to end this. I do want to point out again, you guys send me emails to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Big and Nasty 909. Are you at San Bernardino Valley College, Riverside Community College, CET? Are you at one of those schools? Do you know who I am? Have you seen me at like RSCS meetings or something? A lot of the guys in this area. That's right where I'm at. But yeah, $15 an hour isn't a bad starting rate, dude. That's pretty decent, man. If you can get 15, pretty good stuff, and you'll work your way up real quick. So, dude, my nose is going nuts right now. Yeah, mega ohm meter. I honestly don't have a mega ohm meter. I've been thinking about getting one. Yeah, okay. So Big and Nasty 909. Yeah, that's a decent price, man. So you should go to the RSCS meetings if you get an opportunity. We do them at San Bernardino Valley College the second Tuesday of every month. What happens to the HVAC unit with the burning smell? Nothing has happened, man. Haven't had a problem with it since. So once I fix those electrical connections that were bad, I haven't had another issue at that restaurant since. So, is the saturation points just the system's high and low pressure? So the saturation point, I imagine you mean on the low side and the high side gauge. So you have a suction saturation temperature and you have a vapor saturation temperature and then a liquid saturation temperature. Those would be indicated by your high side and low side pressures. Okay, essentially that's the temperature of the refrigerant at that point in the system. But that's in a nutshell. I'm not going to go crazy into that one right now. Yes, I do own my own company, 6 cent. Yes. Yeah, I just completely spliced the connectors. I put male, female slip-on connectors and took out the little jack that was shorted out. All right, guys, I'm going to end this up because I got to go eat dinner and I got to figure out why the heck my nose is itching so bad. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come into this stream. Send me emails if you guys got questions. And I'm going to get out of here, okay? So we're going to close this out and we will see you guys. Let me fix this real quick. We will see you guys on the next one. Oops, let me see. That's the wrong button there. Okay.